Cassie, I'm here again. Yeah. Today I want to talk about uh, thinking. Uh, most of the things that we do, they are impacted by the way we think, the way we see things. I think when I was living in South Africa, there was a time when I came to understand about internet. So I found out about Google and YouTube, and I remember when I was in the internet cafe and somebody was asking someone something, and the person said, "No, just ask a question there on Google, and it'll give you the answer." So I said, "Wow! So you can ask something and Google will give you an answer." So I typed there, and then I found out that yes, when you ask a question, there was an answer. So that was an opportunity for me. Another world opened, because I knew I'm disadvantaged because of lack of education. I only got the high school education, and there I was in South Africa having the greatest opportunity but not educated. So I knew that I needed to empower myself with knowledge. So I started discovering, even if I asked the most difficult questions, there were answers. And then I came across videos on Google of a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. And this guy was a guy who was like a wine guru, but he also discovered the advantage of using YouTube or using videos to market the wine, and also selling his ideas online. And then he also discovered that there was a lot of opportunities on video marketing. So I started following this guy, and then came about to understand about YouTube. And I also found that YouTube was doing the same. So if you ask a question, you would also get answers. Now, for me to find life easy in South Africa, I knew that I needed to have a certain kind of mindset, a certain way of thinking. And I started doing research, buying books and reading, and I realized that thinking is very critical in whatever you're doing. When you want to do a business, or you want to achieve anything, you're studying or solving problems, it's the thinking. Then I also learned that even thinking itself is something you can actually learn. And I came to understand that there's even schools where they will teach you how to think. They call them the school of thought. So then I said, I want to master this. I want to master how to think. So I started doing a lot of research on YouTube. I started buying books and reading. Then I realized that I could hear things of where they say strategic thinking. It's strategic thinking is not like you are not just thinking. So in strategic thinking, to me, what I learned was, when you are thinking, you're asking yourself questions. The why, what, how, when, where. So you're asking questions, and so you want to find answers by asking questions. But so you need to be able to know how to ask the right questions. So when you are asking yourself those questions, and then you're seeking answers to those questions that you're asking yourself when you're thinking about anything. If I'm thinking of building an electric car, I need to go through a certain process of asking questions and giving answers so that I'm able to find answers. So I'm always asking questions. And I came to realize that everything that happens in life has got something that causes it to happen. So I want to find what has caused that thing, so that I can be able to find out how can I solve that thing. So I'm always asking questions like why. Like in my business, one of the biggest problems that I've been facing in my business is to be able to have staff that can come and work, and then they do what I want them to do. So most of the problems you find that you tell people what to do, but when they start doing it, they don't do what you told them, and they do their own things. So it was very difficult. You know, I will fire the guys, the welders, employ new welders, but still find out that the new team that comes, they're still thinking in the same way as the previous team. When you tell them what to do, they want to find their own way of doing whatever assignment they're supposed to do. So I had to find, how can I solve these problems? Because I discovered this machine, and it's a great opportunity, but this machine needs to be consistent. So it means that every machine that we make needs to be the same. So I'm showing the people the ways of doing it, but the people don't want to do it, because people, more especially here in Malawi, people, they feel comfortable to do things their own way. So if they have been doing these things in a certain way and they feel comfortable to do it, they feel very uncomfortable to change and do it in a different way. Even if the different way is the easiest way, they don't want to do it because that's not the way they are used. People feel comfortable. They sit in a comfort zone whereby they would rather do things the way they have been used to do it. And what I've learned myself is that you can never progress if you do things, the same things over and over, because when you do a thing in a certain way, you will get a certain result. But now for you to improve your result, you need to improve the way you do it. So it means that if you are doing something the same way, there will never be any improvement. But if you change, and then the moment you change, a slight change will give you a different result. And that's what I learned. And it was a very difficult thing to do, because I was able to get customers, I was able to get business, but my machines were not being consistent. I was still facing a lot of problems. If a person buys a machine, they will have problems with the machine. And I knew where the problem was coming from. The problem was coming from the fact that people were not always doing what they're supposed to do. When you stand there, they would do what you tell them to do, but the moment you leave, they do their own way. So I had to find ways. So I had to come up with a system. So the system had to come because of thinking. I asked myself questions: why do people always want to do things the way they want to do it? So then I came to understand that people have got a certain way of thinking, a certain way of doing things. So if they do things in a certain way, they don't want to change to do things in a different way. So then I realized that it will not help me even if I keep on changing people. If I keep on firing, it's not going to help me. I needed to find something that I can really rely on, so that my results are always consistent. So what I did was I went online on YouTube, started finding out on manufacturing systems. I said, how does Toyota do it? So I started doing research. How does when people are doing manufacturing? So I started watching videos of people who are in the manufacturing plants, and they're making stuff. They're making TVs, they're making radios, they're making cars. Then I realized that in those factories, they will have kind of a system where people will be following when they are doing their things. So you find somebody is doing something, but is doing that thing over and over and over, and he's just focusing on that, and then push it to the next person. Then I realized that, I needed to have a system. And also, there was a YouTube videos that I watched for manufacturing process in Japan. I discovered that most of the machine parts in Japan are made by small artisans, and we've got small workshops. But these artisans, they will be given big orders. So for them to achieve the big orders, they were using what we call jigs and templates. And that's when I said, that's my solution. I have to eliminate the element of a human being and put a system in my business. So that's when I came up with a system, and it has helped a lot. Now we are able to make a lot of machines. The speed of making the machine is much faster now, but also the accuracy is much better, because we're using this kind of system. And I'm still going to improve my system, whereby now each welder will have a certain part of job to do on a machine, or particular machine, and that's how we're going to work on it. Yeah, so you need to start looking at the way you think. And another thing is doing things, having comfort in doing something because everybody does it. most of the people are failing to progress because now they want to be, they feel comfortable to be in a group, like to do something that everybody else is doing. For them to do something new, they find it very difficult. For instance, I can give an example. People in South Africa, they worry more about the foreigners. And then everybody feels comfortable to come in a group and discuss about the foreigners, like to say the foreigners are taking advantage, taking jobs from us and doing this and that. But none of them is thinking to say, but okay, even if we talk and even if we discuss, it's not going to change things and things will still remain the same way they are. Why don't I pull out of this kind of thinking and then find a foreigner I can work with? Then you start finding ways and say, okay, how can I work with the foreigner? Or else, if I can't be able to work with a foreigner, but what is it that the foreigner does that we don't do? And then we end up struggling. Because then once you find out what they do that you don't do, then you can now change yourself and start doing it. It's like for myself here in Malawi, I'm here, but I'm finding it much easier to do my business because the way I operate my business is the same way that a foreigner would do. You know, like, for instance, I don't have time to go and waste. I don't have time to sit at a bar and watch football. And you will find that most of the foreigners who are in our country don't have time to go and watch football. They are always working all the time because they know that time is money. So for me, I don't have time to go sit somewhere and play games and other stuff. I'm always working. So for the whole period of the year, I have been working. And then look what the results are. And you'll find that, like, there in South Africa, most of the people don't want to go and spend time to work. Another thing that I do is I spend most of my time learning. So I make sure every day I have to learn something new. So I'm using my data bundle to learn something new. So I'm using a lot YouTube so where I can get the knowledge. And I've been doing this ever since I was in South Africa. And you can just imagine, I left South Africa 10 years ago. So it's more than 15 years that I've been learning every single day, learning something new. I believe that the knowledge that I have now, in terms of whether it's business or whatsoever, could sometimes be better than somebody who's got a degree from the university. Because my knowledge that I'm learning practical knowledge. I can use my knowledge to do something that can bring me money. So if I don't learn, if a day passes without me learning something new, I feel now I feel like I've lost out. So this is one of the things that most of the people don't understand. So it all comes out from the thinking. So what you put in, if you're putting in your mind garbage, you also get out garbage. So what I can leave out to you is that you should start thinking, finding ways and learn how to think. And by learning how to think, it's going to help you to change your mindset. Because what's very important is the mindset. You have to change the mindset. You have to change the way you think. Yeah, so thank you very much.